You know, for most of us, I can speak for myself, learned our lesson with Destiny a long time ago. Because we know that Bungie is known for milking their players and then giving them little bits of crumbs afterwards. That's right, because what you're seeing is 10 years of a company screwing over its players and what it does to its reputation in real time. Hit the like button and subscribe, baby, ring my bell. And the first thing we need to get out of the way is how do we grade success, ladies and gentlemen? Because success for an indie game studio is going to be different than a AAA game studio like Bungie. But for some reason, Bungie likes to act like a indie game company because they put all their chips into an extraction shooter. I mean, really, an extraction shooter? That is just baffling. Between extraction shooters, hero shooters, and battle royales, I think we're all wishing we can go back to team deathmatch, am I right? And hopefully this era of chasing trends is coming to an end. But for some reason, some of the coping that I'm seeing about Marathon is that these fanboys just don't understand the simple fact that yes, Marathon is an absolute failure for Bungie according to Sony. And we're gonna get to why in a second, but I need to get the elephant out of the room straight away here. I find it so weird to see so many creators on YouTube coping so hard about Marathon. I think it's so funny. It's almost like they've been deliberately told to hold back on their feedback, and of course they obliged. And when I tell you that these people are emitting so much cope, yeah, it's happening right in front of us. I can only imagine how much money Sony and Bungie are paying streamers to eat this slop and help build hype for a game that just isn't working. And the money pit that is Marathon is exactly why it's a failure. See, Marathon, when it came out on launch, peaked at 86,000 people and is now currently averaging 30 to 60 players concurrently. Now, do I have to remind you that this game cost upwards of $250 to $300 million on top of the $3.6 billion that Sony paid to own Bungie? Yeah, this is a complete and utter failure. Because unless Marathon goes free to play, even those numbers are gonna go down very soon. The opening weekend didn't bring enough players, and the chances are is that it's not going to be bringing any more. The reality of the situation is that it's already sold like 90% of what's ever going to sell over its lifespan. Sure, maybe you'll get blips here and there when it gets discounted, but what you see is what you get, basically. And like I said, you know those numbers are not exactly what Sony and Bungie were looking forward to. In reference, Arc Raiders currently, yes, that came out many months ago, has 110,000 right now. Delta Force has 140,000 and Apex has 183,000. And just to make my point even further, Battlefield 6 that came out a year ago peaked at 747,000 when it came out, and yesterday it had a peak of 50,000, and that studio still got some layoffs. Maybe the game costing $40 might actually keep it alive for a few months. Anyway, one of the funniest excuses I've seen for Marathon for the lower player count is, look, people are just working and they're asleep, so they can't possibly be playing Marathon. That's why they're at 30,000 concurrent players right now. But then when you look at the concurrent players at the same time for Marvel rivals, like I said, Delta Force, look, if the Marathon players are lucky, I can see Sony giving them a couple of employees to keep it alive. Not the full 900 employees that Bungie has, because either Sony right now greenlights Destiny free, or I promise you there will be massive layoffs in Bungie's future. I can almost guarantee it. Now, remember when everybody was saying, we don't need a Destiny free, and Bungie is like, okay, you know, we'll give you this schlop instead, and everybody now is saying, we need a Destiny free. Now, look, there is no way Sony is looking at this and saying, oh my god, great job, guys. Just awesome. Yeah, you are well worth that $3.6 billion. Yeah, that never happened. That's why they're in big trouble. Now, earlier in the video, I said that Bungie and an indie game studio releasing a game like this is two completely different worlds. Because for a small indie team, 86,000 players at launch is very good. That wouldn't be bad for most indie developers, but for a AAA studio, backed by Sony with millions in development costs, almost destroying their reputation and Sony's reputation for their first-party bangers. And then you get 50,000 concurrent players is just simply not good enough. Because lower player numbers means lower revenue, and the amount of revenue won't be able to sustain Bungie with 900 plus employees. So I think what's going to happen within the next few months is that there's going to be a lot of people internally within Sony and Bungie having some really uncomfortable conversations and discussions about whether it was worth destroying their reputation and tanking Destiny, because yes, Destiny Destiny 2 actually died as a result of them funneling resources away from that to this trash. A game that will most likely be dead within a year. Because I think Sony was counting on Marathon being huge and Destiny 2 continuing to be popular. That was a big reason why they bought Bungie, and now Destiny 2 is in a terrible state. Players are leaving that in droves as we speak, and Marathon basically going out in a whimper based on their expectations. There is no way you can look at this in a positive spin. And you know, when you have a pissed off parent company like Sony breathing down their necks, yeah, that's not going to go over well. See, they already delayed Marathon by a year and a half. I think this game was supposed to come out like in 2024. See, Sony already had to subsidize Bungie, even though they kept missing revenue projections, and now they have to back another middling live service game for another couple of years. It's terrible. I mean, at what point does Sony actually start making money from this $3.6 billion black hole? Because remember, when they bought Bungie, they wasted $1.2 billion on employee retention after buying them out, just to go through another round of layoffs, which is going to happen. Wasting money on a bunch of cancelled projects, you know, being a PR nightmare for Sony because, yeah, remember, Bungie got into a bunch of trouble stealing that guy's art. They've been getting into a lot of controversies as of late. Is it really worth the hassle? Because, yeah, Sony bought Bungie for more than Disney bought Star Wars. Because there is no universe, to me anyway, where Destiny is worth, I don't know, a tenth of what Star Wars is even now. Because even with how bad Star Wars is, it's still not worth more than Star Wars. Come on now. I mean, look, anyway, one of the funnier copes I've seen about Marathon is that it's, what about the console? The console gamers. And you know what? That excuse falls on deaf ears because during launch when it came out, it had all these server issues on PlayStation. But having said that, I can tell you right now that there's probably a lot of people playing it on PlayStation. However, is it really going to be enough to sustain Marathon? I mean, I had people playing it on PS5 during the server slam like a week ago. Like 10 people on my friends list were playing it. Now nobody's playing it. Not a single soul on my friends list is playing Marathon. But this is what happens when Bungie basically tortures a beloved franchise like Destiny and then distances itself from the very community who supported it and helped thrive for the last decade. They hate their own audience, that I can tell you. So in closing, for me, when it comes to Marathon, if it dies, it dies. It's really that simple. Oh, and before I go, one of the other funnier copes I've seen is, you know, just wait till it releases and does big updates later. Yeah, okay. And another one they say is that you have to play it for like 5 hours and then it will be fun. Oh, really? Because the average casual gamer on Normie has 5 hours to waste to see if a game is good. And the fact that they're making people pay for a game that isn't fun within the first few hours makes no sense and will never retain a massive amount of people. Oh yeah, and by the way, this game is not casual in the slightest. I would say it's kind of hardcore, so expecting people to put 5 hours to wait and see if it's fun is ludicrous. And by the way, can I just say, in order to refund a game, you have to play less than 2 hours of playtime on Steam. So yeah, think about it. If your game can't hook people in 2 hours, good luck. And on that bombshell, the bottom line here is that Sony can't afford to keep Bungie fumbling with everything they do. They paid $3.6 billion and 3 years later, nothing to justify the purchase. And Sony is not a social service. They're not going to keep doing this for charity. And will they keep pouring money into it if they are going to continue losing money? The answer is no. Manix out.